As a financial advisor, is it possible to post too much content? And what is too much? Let's get into this question today as we launch Dear Ficomm episode 39. My name is Carolyn Dalle-Molle. I'm a VP at Ficomm Partners. This is our open advice column for financial advisors working on their growth. I got this question recently via email, and I'm going to read that aloud in just one moment, but I've also heard this question from the audience at conferences, people who attend events or come to our workshops. Even advisors who are part of our 12-month Advisor Accelerator can sometimes ask this question of, what is too much content? Here's how to think about it from a strategic and results-driven standpoint. So the question I got is, I know there is such a thing as posting too much. How do I control this? How do I know the line not to cross? So if you are a client of Ficomm's, you have likely received a direct recommendation for the quantity and consistency of your content. So right off the bat, please return to your strategic recommendations that you've received from Ficomm, and we want to focus our conversation there. We want to make sure you're hitting the strategy, hitting the recommended pace and quantity, because that is what is matching up to your goals and also kind of your existing state. So we want to move you from today's rate into your new elevated strategic growth rate. And so point back to what we've recommended for you. If you are not a Ficomm client and you are trying to navigate this alone, you do want to think about, okay, quantity. How much should I be creating? For that, you would be doing multiple things in order to get the insight and the answer. At the very basis, you want to say, what are our goals? And how different are those goals based on what we've seen? And what does our ideal client want? Because if you want to connect more with your ideal client, you have to know what they want in order to know how you should show up. So always go back to strategy. If we zoom way out and we think about too much content, I'm going to slip in one other factor here to help us think about this. If the content is highly valuable to your ideal client, there's no such thing as too much value to a client. Okay? So if content is highly valuable to the ideal client, we don't run the risk of too much value to our clients. But when you think about also now your social media and your blogs and your emails and your events and how you show up in your local market, there is such thing as too much low quality content, low value, spinning your wheels, no results. It's not tailored to strategy. It feels like you're throwing spaghetti up against the wall. So that is the line that you don't want to cross. If I were to guide you and coach you through this, I would say, if it's high value, if it's tailored to the ideal client, and your team is able to produce at this level, then we're not really running the risk of too much value to clients. There is a second part here, immediately after I talk about the rate of diminishing return. Because if our recommendation to you as a Ficomm client was to post to social media 3 times a week, create 3 articles on the company blog a month, host this many events, engage in these ways with sponsors, have this PR strategy. If we gave you the recommendations for your goals, and then you took some of these and you did more quantity, it's not super clear that doubling your content would double the result. So in some cases, we want to look at the rate of diminishing return. And the last thing I want to share today in this video is a few prompts that could help you as a team make better decisions internally. These are moments where maybe there's an idea that comes in and it's we had this idea for a whole thing that we want to do, or a post we want to publish every week for Q2, these kinds of things. There are some prompts that can help create safeguards to make sure that you are creating high quality value for the ideal client and you're not doing the rate of diminishing return, okay? And those questions are, oh, okay, I hear your idea. Okay, I'm writing your idea down. Where did this idea come from? Like kind of getting curious about the idea. And then say, all right, does this align with strategy? Let's pull up our strategy. Does this align with strategy? Another good question. What would our ideal client think? Is this valuable to our ideal client? Let's pull up our documented ideal client profile. Okay, here's what they're motivated by. Here are their top concerns. Here's what they want. Here's what they're thinking about. Okay, what would this person think of this idea? And usually those two questions get you 80% of the way, because it might not align with strategy. It might be a distraction, in which case you can put it in a parking lot for later, for consideration later. Let's focus on strategy. Let's deploy everything towards strategy. Or you could say, oh, the ideal client, like, we care about this because we were nominated for a local, award and acknowledgement, but our ideal client won't really care yet. They might care if we win, but when we're nominated, it's not super valuable for them to get an email about that. Okay, so those two checks are very, very helpful, incredibly steering, and will keep you focused on higher impact activity. In general, what we are trying to avoid is deploying resources in low impact activity. It's not a concern too much about posting too much, but it is a concern if the team is focused on things that don't drive impact, or the team's resources are being scattered. We really want to aim all resources, all attention, all ideation towards strategy and the ideal client. I hope this helped you think more clearly, more strategically about the question for the day. Submit your other questions using the link below. This is an open advice column. Any financial advisor is welcome to submit what you are thinking about and what you're trying to navigate with your team. I will see you in the next episode.